Hello, everybody. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop for May 11th, 2019. This is, of course, our 111th episode. Joe. I've been doing this for a long time, with occasionally not Joe here, and this is one of those not Joe times. But I have two people joining me today. One today, voice from space. Say hi, Blaze. Hi, Blaze.
Hi.
So, Blaze is here. He is the voice of the voice space that is bringing information on. And of course, I've got Lee, or just Lee Belmont, to also throw out his wisdom in these many topics.
It's a pleasure to be here. Very happy to invited to this.
Of course, we have a pretty full docket I want to kind of tick to. We're going to talk a little bit live because it's coming this weekend. Shadowrun 6th edition has been announced, along with BESM 4th edition. So that's a lot of big things. I want to talk about the board game Bunny Kingdom in the Sky, the Monolith Sourcebook for the Conan RPG, which is a game based on like the property / RPG that is also now inspiring things for the RPG. Very cyclical weirdness. Dungeoning, a build your own kind of dungeon adventure board game. An Alien RPG, like Alien the original movie, and Star Wars The Outer Rim board game, plus get some of our regular segments at the end. Let's talk D&D live. I think this is one I wanted to hit a little bit on, because this is an interesting event that I know a couple of people that are actually going to D&D live, so that's very exciting. It's going to be next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where they're effectively everybody to this LA, and having them they do it like the big events for like RPGs. Like if you go to like a Gen Con or PAX, you can go into a convention space where they're in front of you doing one of their shows they might do on, which I'm not going to hit into some of those things about one of those shows and some shows about it, because that's online problems that if something that seems newsworthy, I will talk about that. It hasn't occurred in the RPGs. But anyway, regardless, people see it. It'll be, I think, on their Twitch, the D&D's Twitch channel. You should be able to like check out a bunch of that.
I didn't know that there was an official channel for Dungeons and Dragons.
There is. The Wizards is actually pretty good. This is actually proud of official channel. So have an official Magic channel that, like, Ooh. If they're having a tournament, you can check out a lot of their tournament stuff, or like their various events over the weekends. You can watch people doing it. So I mean, if you're in LA, you could kind of go. Apparently, if you manage to get in, like, also we're giving out a copy of one of their new adventures, Ghosts March, which is actually really awesome. And this makes me double jealous that as the people I know with, three people I know with are all in the same game. Scott, who's got Rick online. We chat a lot of times. Winter Bear, who's been in my D&D campaign, is one of the plots game, and Zero Doxy, who I don't do anything with online, really. I play stuff with her off, cool. Basically through Winter and Ollie and Scott, we do some things offline, and I've done some stuff with her. And she's much bigger, I think also Mark Crone, who was on Discussing Tabletop a couple of years ago. So that was like our like 20s or 30s episode. She was a guest on here, and I haven't had a chance to get her on again. But she's there too. So it's it's people that, like, I know these people, and I'm like, so like happy for them, but also so jealous.
It's like, why can't I be there? How come my friends to do that?
An interesting story that Scott told me, that it was like he got connections through someone else, that some of the things he does, by chance, and that's why he got invited. Kind of was like a series of meeting person that led to this opportunity, which is awesome for him, because there's a lot of other people there. Now, this is a really cool sounding event. I mean, like, to assemble a whole lot of people, have a big event, show off Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun to have a bunch of people who are extremely passionate about their hobby, kind of like conglomerating into one place,
Yeah, and like they've given a lot of information about like the crazy schedule and the people there, and it's like, wow, you have quite a collection of groups, because they have Jeremy Crawford, Nathan Stewart, Chris Perkins. These are big creators of Dungeons and Dragons, and they're going to be your masters of ceremonies almost. And you got Jeremy Crawford's going to be running a game on Friday, and Chris Perkins is going to be running one on Saturday. So it's sort of they're taking things, and then they've got a whole bunch of other people doing various things kind of in between that are related to it. And the thing is, they have 4 Twitch channels that they're going to be doing this on.
Oh, wow. That's quite a lot of avenues to kind of broadcast this on.
Yeah. They have D&D Live, or twitch.tv D&D Live E1, 2, 3, and 4. It's just, wow. Yeah,
I imagine for many of the people in the attending the event, they must be pretty starstruck to have all those big names there, especially considering they're going to be hosting it and broadcasting it on several channels as well.
No, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that you look at it and you're like, wow. You got a lot of big names and stuff, and again, I feel like it's one of those things that you want good connections between people, because that's the kind of thing and that's a good way for a lot of these people to get together, connect together, and stuff like that. Again, that's just my little bit of that nagging voice of damn it.
I could have networked.
Well, that's the terribleness about me, is anytime I go to one of these events, it's networking.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good to think about that, especially because it's one of the best means of expanding and facilitating growth, and it's also a great way to be able to meet, people who are very passionate about D&D as well,
Yeah, that's very true.
So,
I mean, I am one of the people that the problem is I'm very bad at catching these things, but I will love to hear about everything that's been going on with it. After the fact, it's one of those
all the
weird
fun anecdotes and all that.
Yeah, it's all the fun anecdotes, what happened, all the interesting things that was going on, all the fun that was had, all those things. But again, I'm probably not gonna catch much of it, unfortunately, just because it tends to. It's hard for me to get a lot of that time to do something, especially an event this large. Unless I'm there, I feel it's hard to jump into participation sometimes.
Yeah, especially it's like you mentioned, because it's really large. It'd be hard to, I guess, for it to be accessible and try to get the whole cohesive whole of it.
Yeah.
From that kind of perspective. So.
Yeah, it's last year they had the Stream of Many Eyes, they called it, which was their big event, similar to this. But I don't know if they had, because this is beyond the normal D&D Twitch channel, which is going to be doing stuff. So that's 5 pages of Twitch that they're going to be throwing stuff at.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's just a lot of information to process too, as well.
Yeah, and it's I'm curious as to how much of it's just going to be straight up D&D, how much of it's going to be talking about stuff, and how much of it might even be maybe doing special things related to the new stuff. Because would someone be doing something with the actual Ghost of Saltmarsh, which is the book that they're going to be showing off there? Will someone be running that there? That would be very cool, but the question is what is the extent of everything that's going to be happening? I'm curious. Just part of me is definitely curious and thing. But if you're looking for the thing that has Scott and people definitely Will, who was on Madness of the Land first season, it's Saturday on the 4th channel, 3 p.m. Enter the Darkness is what Scott's doing.
Very cool.
Yeah. So. Anyway, do either of you want to add anything else on D&D Live? Because I think I kind of put on my 2 cents of I wanted to talk about it, that it's going on, more than anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than it's huge, and as you said, all 4 channels are pretty much all going almost at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, it gives you choice, because I can't they have people involved here. I think definitely the one game on Saturday. Let's got Chris Perkins. They got Matt Mercer in that one, who like people know
cool.
from Critical
like
Role.
Him.
You know, that's the big thing he knows about. Again, like then this is going into an entirely different conversation of like he said that like people should like D&D but avoid copying him too much. He worries about that as one of those things because he's the big name in D&D when it comes to the streaming side.
Exactly. He's Mr. Charisma.
Yeah, you know, the thing is like that's one of those skills that is very good to bring in as a DM but isn't needed is the voice acting part of it, like doing a lot of voices. I can do a bunch of voices, but none of them sound super different, and some of them are just like awful accents.
I think they're charming. They're definitely funny.
My Russian accent is very bad. It's fun to do, but it's very bad.
I think one of the appeals to having a voice actor as a DM is just the fact that like they can instill so much life into the NPCs, which is something that like I've seen other DMs like not put as much effort into that, which is a shame because like that's such a huge aspect of world building, and if you feel like you're that much closer to like the non-playable characters, and it makes the experience that much more immersive, you know?
It's sometimes hard to do that. Like I feel like it's in my own experiences getting into that. Like my D&D side, I don't have as many opportunities to sort of build that in. But like when I've been doing my vampires on Tuesday, people love some of the characters I've done. The characters have like a lot of things. Like they love this stupid NPC rat who Wick, who one of the characters made as his like basically familiar as a vampire. And so he can speak with him. So I give him this like Brooklyn accent because they're from New York. So he's like, "Hey boss, what's been going on? We've been hanging out here."
I love that.
Yeah.
You also made like the roaches that were from like
the
Boston
Midwest
or something.
I made them make a Western. Oh yeah, the Great Lord Cockroach. He's we're gonna serve him now and gonna be doing great things. Yeah. It's like I don't even have to do like a really heavy accent. I just have to kind of sound him a little Midwest and like I just make it like the entire thing, and it just ends up well. And that's good NPC building that you can't always hit on. You know, you need good opportunities to build good opportunities, and I'm not always as good at building opportunities, especially on the Dungeon Dragon side. I hate to say it, but
yeah, it's definitely super context sensitive as well. Like, and I think some NPCs are just like naturally harder to kind of do that. Like, you know, I'm thinking like maybe like a knight or something in Dungeons and Dragons. It's like, how interesting can I make this character because of how proper he has to be because he's in the position of being a knight, you know?
Yeah, it's like when I talk about those characters are serious to the way I'm playing them, but they are in a way intrinsically ridiculous characters. It's the part like the servant rat. It's been infused with vampire blood, so it's more powerful and smarter than your average rat, but it's still a rat.
Yeah.
Or the cockroach guy. I just gave him a Midwestern accent and played him straight as this like poor experimented guy from the Midwest. Who just like I made him have this tragic backstory, like his family died and he decided to go for like experiments to earn some extra money because he lost his job and stuff, and he ended up a giant cockroach monster, and he's got this horrible tragic backstory, but he's got that like he just is so silly the way he speaks, But you can build that, and unlike for the night people or like a ruler of a town, you can only instill so much without going silly, and
yeah. That's definitely true. Like it's definitely important to consider the limitations of like their profession, and I guess like how quote unquote serious like certain characters are meant to be.
Yeah.
Because with the other examples you brought up, those are like those are like hyper exaggerated characters, right? So it's a lot easier and fun to be able to kind of put yourself in the shoes of something that's so like out of the ordinary that it just becomes like. It's natural to do that, I guess, because it's so different, and it's just I don't know, it's fun.
The thing is, I would recommend just as a final thing here before we move on, check out Chris Perkins DMing, regardless of what players he has. I'm just going to say that because controversies, but for him when he DMs, he's the perfect one to say it, because if you watch him when he did his Dice Camera Action first season, he takes pauses when he needs to. He makes sure to check the book, which he wrote the book that he was using, but he made sure to check it over because he was using some basic source material for certain things, and he gives just enough voices. Like, all his characters, because they're like that kind of Romanian accent, sound very similar. You know, but like he'll like talk a little old for like an old woman or an old man, and talk like this for a man, or talk like this for a woman. So they sound a little similar, but it's enough. And I think
it's subtlety at its finest, you know.
Yeah, but anyway, let's move on though, because we could talk about some of the stuff all day. I want to talk about Shadowrun 6th edition, so let's dive into that. So this is something I don't know if anybody was expecting to hear about. That's one of those things about it. Like, I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure that Shadowrun 5th edition is not that old. A few years, at very least now, so it's been a number of years. Maybe 4 years at most. But when it comes to, like, RPG systems, that's not a whole lot of time.
Right. Let me ask you something. How long was the release from Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition? Because I know from 3rd to 4th that was super radical in terms of like differences for the format.
Let me give you that information a second here. I can get that from... So 3rd edition was released in 2000. 4th edition was released in 2008. 5th edition was released in 2014. So 6 years. 8 between. Okay. The original AD&D, which was because similar to 3rd edition had a 0.5, AD&D had like a 0.5 also there too.
Interesting.
Yeah, the original D&D was 74, AD&D was 77, 79, kind of like there was a bunch of releases in there that cored it. The 2nd edition of AD&D, which is their 2.5, was 89. So there was like some big jumps in between there.
And you said for Shadowrun it was like a 4-year difference?
Okay, I just pulled up the wiki.
2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is 5 years, so it's close to Now the thing is, you have to think about this. 4th edition was walked away with after 6 years because a lot of people disliked it or found it meh. Like, for me personally, I found it was okay. It was a lot different from D&D, so it felt like an entirely different role-playing game system. You know, but I didn't find it a terrible game. I didn't like it as much as 3rd edition, hence why I played Pathfinder after that a lot, because that was the evolution of that. But it was 6 years because it had a bad taste.
Yeah, and a lot of mechanics were different too, as far as I know. I heard 4th edition was super like tactical heavy on the combat, and it took like a lot longer.
Yeah.
And I know people didn't like that, which was kind of explains why the gap between from 3rd to 4th is longer compared to like the gap from 4th to 5th, which is a couple years shorter.
Yeah,
so.
And if you look at also then for Shadowrun, they have had a similar like 6-7 year cycle in between it. Pretty much, they had like it was 89 for their 1st edition, 92 for their 2nd, because I'm guessing like those first couple big changes. Then it was 6 years till 3rd edition. Another 7 years for 4th. They put out a 20th anniversary, which is kind of an updated 4th 4 years later. 4 years after that was 5th edition. So it's still shorter than any of those time frames. Okay, so it's like it's working on 6 years now. The only thing that was different there is the 20th anniversary, which was just like a slightly updated rule set to 4th edition. It wasn't anything major. So, I mean... And now I can understand the big reason that they're putting out there is 30th anniversary. It is this year, 30th anniversary of Shadowrun. Great. But
does that really facilitate an entirely new edition, you know, rather than just like an anniversary edition, you know, for like a limited print run?
Because they did a 20th. Like they could have done a 30th, and in a couple of years given us the 6th edition. And it would have felt, you know, natural, the way they've been kind of doing it there. It's not necessarily, depending on the updates, a bad thing that they're doing a 6th edition now, especially depending on how they change it. I'm going to say that. I'm going to save my final judgment till I get a hands on the rules. But it's not starting off on a good foot, basically, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely jarring, for sure. Like, it almost makes me feel like it's simply from, like, a marketing standpoint, why, for the 6th edition, or, specifically.
Yeah. Now, like, they're saying the core book, I think, is going to be out in August, and it's like July for their beginner's box, which I actually like that they're doing it in that order, because there are some games that don't do it in that order, that put out the core books first and then wait a little while and finally give us the beginner's box. Cough, cough, cough. Starfinder, cough, cough, cough. Paizo, with Starfinder out over a year, and we're finally getting the starter box there. Just saying.
That's rough.
That was a previous week. That was a previous week that me and Joe were talking about that one there. So, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to put together to make it a little easier. Good. Shadowrun, the worst thing about Shadowrun, I've always said, is the actual system that Shadowrun runs in. They have this immense world that they've crafted that has a lot of really cool things to it. The systems kinda suck sometimes.
Oof. Does that just like interfere with like world building, or just like I guess like basic functions for like how you expect to interact?
One layer of Shadowrun, you're fine. If you play the just basic combat, that you're basically criminals that work outside the law, you're fine. The problem comes in when you bring in some of the more adept rules. They have an entire like internet they call the Matrix, which they called it the Matrix before the movie because it's been the Matrix since the original, and that came out in '89. Take that movie. But it's basically their like online network that, you know, kind of, it's like a super internet that people can like full VR dive into. Like they can literally jack their brains into it, kind of thing.
Ooh.
They have entire systems for using that and hacking into stuff there. And doing that, which you're laying that on top of, like, we're breaking into a building, one group of us are going off and doing the breaking in. The other group might be hacking into things with them on the fly, right then and there, like breaking into doors or breaking into computer systems. That's the second layer. Then you add, there's magic, because this is a science fiction fantasy. Because the entire plot line is, it's an alternate world history that in the early 2000s, magic came back to the world.
Oh boy.
Yeah. That's why it's the sixth world. Fifth world is the world that we live in. You know, it's saying like, oh, the sixth world occurred. It's like all of a sudden a change where magic comes back, you know, and the entire world alters. Now you have a third system you're laying on top of here. Now the thing is, these systems are very similar in how they're played, but a GM has to pay attention to all of them almost.
Yeah, I was going to mention, I guess from the player's perspective, I feel like it probably wouldn't be as bad because they'd probably specialize in only like a couple of things, but for the dungeon or the dungeon master to kind of like remember all that, like I'd say like the combat and the magic is like one thing, but like the hacking thing seems like super like esoteric and like completely unique to the Shadowrun style tabletop RPG, because I've never heard that before.
And the thing is, because they work in that you can get multiple actions in a round with things like cybernetics or magic, or if you're in the Matrix, you get multiple actions in a round. Basically, it's like you almost get 3 rounds of actions per second that goes by, kind of like for everyone else, you know. Well, I guess per 6 seconds you get 3 things because you're going so fast. They get like 1 in the real world. So you can be hacking while they're fighting. It's almost, they make it, because you can layer these on top of each other. You can do them all at the same time. You don't have to separate them out. It's just that you have to still pay attention to what's going on there. They're having their own battle while you're having your battle, you know. And the magic, there's even an astral plane, which mages can go into the astral plane and do stuff there, because that might be help in your breaking in. It might not. So you can keep it very simple, or you can make it very complex, but the complex is like the nature of the system, almost. Right.
Yeah, like now that you're mentioning the astral plane, I was like, when I first started Magic, like I'm like, okay, this is pretty cut and dry, right? It's probably got some basic spells, maybe like a summoning spell.
Magic itself, it does do a summoning, but magic itself, until you get it down in your brain, is a little complex. It's basically like, it's like 7 steps. Now, granted, I will say, like 4 of the steps you can skip over usually. They're basically like things that you're checking stuff. You know, you're like, because like standard, you can cast magic infinitely. The problem with magic, it has something called drain, which if you use too much, it can drain, like it cause you damage. Little small spells that don't do a lot, but could still be helpful, like maybe replacing gunfire. Those probably don't have enough drain that you have to worry about it. But you can then summon, like, massive fireballs that would explode an entire room. But the problem is, you literally might drain yourself to going unconscious.
Oh my god. Okay, so there's like a risk reward factor to that. It's not just like my MP meter is gone. No, this dips into my life meter.
Yeah.
So.
Basically, like, similar that they have attributes, you have a magic attribute. It assumes that you're always going to use the force of the spell equivalent to your magic attribute. Because that's the one that has the least amount of drain, and drain is still stun. If you go your force above your magic, it becomes lethal. So you could actually kill yourself with a powerful spell. But you could do something really awesome, like, you know, exploding a building with fire. It might kill you, but you could do it.
You could quite literally go out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I like that idea from a narrative perspective, you know?
Yeah. So, normally they just assume your force is 6. Let's say if your magic is 6, which is the normal maximum people can get to. Make those assumptions. There's a lot of other little assumptions that they just make in these steps. But you have to recognize that they're there as a spellcaster in case you want to change something. And then there's usually there's a couple of dice rolls. There's the dice roll to casting a spell, whatever's resisting it, and then drain. And that's it.
Yeah.
So 3 dice rolls quickly and impulsively, which sounds a lot like a lot of combats. It's sort of like attack and damage on D&D, except in this case, it's a lot of times magic's resisted, so the person gets or like magic in D&D. Cast a spell, make a save, roll damage.
Yeah.
You know? It's like that. Now, they are claiming, we don't know a lot, they're trying to make it quicker, easier, you know, play to learn is easier than ever been, they're saying.
Ooh, that's really good. That's going to help a lot for accessibility.
If that's the case, I might really be happy about this. That's the thing that's going to be the big thing for me.
Especially considering that you wanted to start a Shadowrun campaign as well.
And truth be told, which I've said this before, I want to do a Parasite Eve game.
Please! I have so much appreciation for it after playing it.
I have a great idea using Shadowrun's system. You can,
that'd be perfect.
You get rid of the magic, you get rid of the matrix, you don't have the astral plane, you can use their magic system for parasite powers, and it's pretty good. It works pretty good. I know I'd have to still do a lot of little tweaks here and there and things like that, and I had a concept, a previous game I'd done in a bastardized version of D&D I tried to make my own thing, but I'm part of it was inspired by Parasite Eve, along with a bunch of other things. I can bring aspects of that back in, and basically be here's an alternate world history set 20 years in the future where parasite powers and maybe powers similar to Aya's start to become more spread out there. So now you have to worry about the world has changed greatly. You know, it's an entirely different dynamic. And you'd be an organization like Myst was from the second game, except it's people with powers with Aya have been gathered together. Kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. And just taking down a whole bunch of NMCs together. And
the first game, having a human-based ones are now more common, just not monster ones. That there was only the one human one, the original Eve from the first game, more like her awakening then. So that's more dangerous then too, you know. So you have you have super bosses or something, you know, things like that you have to deal with as a tactical team. And I thought it was a cool idea. I have to work on it. But I wanted to do a normal Shadowrun first to get into Shadowrun again, because I had this adventure. Long story short, I'll do that eventually. Maybe I'll wait till August to start it.
I would be super excited in the event that you do decide to do a Parasite Eve campaign, because I think from everything you're telling me about the Shadowrun mechanics, I feel you know, because that game primarily features cyberpunk essentially, right?
Cyberpunk magic, yeah. So it fits very well with the entire idea, definitely. And you can just... But anyway, getting back to Shadowrun a little bit, they're trying to make it also easier for character generation. That's basically what they... And these things are... They're claims. We haven't seen anything yet. But they have announced 1 billion bits of material based on this.
Oh boy.
Beginner's Box, a Neo Anarch's Streetpedia is a book. No Future, which is a book they put out for 5th edition, that they're putting out a 6th edition upgrade, that if you bought the PDF of the 5th edition, they'll give you the 6th edition PDF for free, which I think is good. I guess if you bought the physical book, you just gotta buy another version of it if you're going to 6th edition.
Mm-hmm.
Sucks to be you. But if you bought the PDF, a little better for you. Then the core rulebook. they're doing a couple of the Fantasy Flight things and having like, or like some of the D&D things and having, or like the Pathfinder things and having like decks of stuff. Like they have an NPC deck, so if you a deck of cards that you could draw out, like, hey, I'm using this NPC, you know, for like some basic ones for quick use and things like that. And then a couple other things, like a couple more books towards the end.
You know, as someone who's trying to get into the like tabletop RPGs in general, I actually really appreciate that the new edition of Shadowrun is opting to be more inclusive, as in they're trying to make it more accessible for new people to get into the hobby. Because I think that's always a wonderful thing.
I've literally said this every edition of Shadowrun because I've played from. I think the only one I didn't get a lot into was first edition, though I have the book. Everyone since that first one has gotten better.
That's great.
They managed to fix things like 4th edition, which is the one I've done the most of recently, was so much better than 3rd edition, which was so much better than 2nd edition.
It shows that they're learning too, you know, as tabletop designers.
It used to be that the Matrix and Magic were completely different systems, instead of being being shadows of each other, which is what they became now, so that they could be run at the same time pretty easily, even though you're still paying attention to 2 or 3 different encounters at the same time.
Yeah.
Basically. Instead, they used to be vastly different systems with vastly different ways that they worked.
That must have been so hard to keep track of back then. Like, it sounds so much more streamlined now than it ever has been. Like,
now they have it that you roll 6-sided dice, a set number of them, versus a target number, that's it's 4 or 5, I think, and you have to get a certain number of successes. Similar to White Wolf does it. It used to be, you got a certain number of dice, but you had to get a target number, which could have been higher than 6, and when you rolled a 6, you got to re-roll that dice to get a higher number. So you could have something that had like a difficulty like 14, so you had to roll 6 twice in a row.
That is impossible. What on earth?
That's like getting shot like with like a missile or something. Soak damage from it.
I think I remember that.
But then you had ways of like reducing the target number with certain things, and it was just like, ugh!
At that point, it's just too number crunchy for me. I'm like, oh man, just give me something easier to work with.
That was early editions of Shadowrun. It was. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it reminds me of Thaco.
Oh.
What's that?
In AD&D, they had Thaco, which was the hit armor class of 0. Well, all it was is basically like, because AC went from 10 down.
Oh.
Instead of from 10 up, which it does now in modern day. So you're having, so it's a higher target number that you have to hit with a D20, you know, and that you get bonuses to. It used to be that it went downwards. So basically you had to you had to reverse mathematics. So if your Thaco was 20, which a starting character usually had, that means to hit an armor class of 0, I had to get a 20. Well, to have to get a 10, I had to get a 10. But then there was negative numbers you could do too. So if it had like a -4, I'd have to get a 24. Which I really couldn't. Which
I'm so grateful for the quality of life changes for like modern tabletop games.
Yeah, which rather than getting a bonus, your Thaco just got better. So at higher levels, your Thaco might be like a 10th level fighter might have a Thaco of 10. So I could hit that armor class of 0 with a 10. I don't get any bonuses, but wait, if I have a higher strength, might get +1 or +2. Or my magic sword might give me +1 or +2. Thaco was surprisingly simple, but it was just, I know it was just like brain fart that everybody had to realize how it worked. And when you look back at it, you're like, this is awful.
Yeah, it was once you like got your head around it, it was like, and you were playing, it was like, oh, you roll it and you figure it out. But the point of jumping into it and actually learning it was a really steep curve.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like inverted, you know?
It's inverted,
like, that's not how we think.
Well, the thing is, that's how it was. People that are introduced in 3rd edition and beyond, it is completely alien. I started with Thaco, so I didn't do a lot of it because I was very young at the time. So it was like it wasn't so much concepts that was hard to introduce to, like bonuses. That makes better sense. Now I just plus stuff.
Now it's easy.
But this transitions very easily into the next one, which is BESM 4th edition, which is one that I'm actually kind of happy to see. This is another one, like, the Shadowrun one was unexpected because they do it. The BESM one is unexpected because I always thought BESM was dead.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The last edition came out, like, early 2000s, and I've actually streamed 3rd edition BESM on the Twitch channel here. I did it for a couple of one-shots because it's an anime-based role-playing game system. Now, I say that, it will ruin a lot of people to BESM. Because as soon as you say anime, people are like, oh, either people love anime or hate anime. The thing with it, the better way to say it is it's an open-ended RPG system.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
You get a set number of points, and it's a tri-stat system, meaning you have 3 stats, body, mind, and soul. You put some of your points between those, and then you knock yourself out for everything. Skills, powers, equipment, all have point costs, and they break down the point costs of them. And they have a super customizable system in there that you could, like, come up with powers, you could build on, like, existing powers, you could customize some of the powers they suggest. So it's sort of like, I want to teleport, but I want to be able to take people with me. But I can only teleport short distances. But then it also makes me, like, tired after I use it. You can do things like that and add on those little details that makes it your own powers. But you'd rather just generic teleport power A.
Yeah, like the limiters make it, like, more interesting in your own, you know?
Yeah, so that you can come up and build things, and you have a set number of points, so you go like, oh, teleport on its own costs this much. But if I increase certain things, like maybe taking more people with me, it costs more. But if I give some kind of limitation, oh, it costs less. So things like that to, like, tweak it into what points you have. And they give ranges of points depending on how ridiculous characters you want to be like, you could be, like, from average people to, like, nigh infinite gods. So basically you could be like Goku from Dragon Ball.
That's cool.
They don't recommend playing games like that because it's really hard to run games like that because nigh infinite people, what the hell are you going to challenge them with? But, like... Yeah,
that's true. It's also less interesting, you know? I like things that are more grounded in, like, just... Not humility, but it's like, come on, you know? Like, you could be a god in, like, a video game, right? Like, let's just be, like... I'd rather be an interesting character than, like,
you could be one, you could be relatively heroic and pretty powerful. You don't have to be... But you can... And still find decent challenges, you know? Like, I think, like, 500 points is kind of around the area I like to, like, if I'm going for very powerful people to go for, because that's very powerful. I think, like, 150 is, like, your average human kind of thing. 500 is very powerful, but you're not, like, you're not blowing up continents kind of thing powerful, you know?
Yeah.
And, of course, though, because they do focus on anime, they go a lot of the genres of anime, but those genres match with a lot of genres you can do. Like, fantasy, you can do fantasy, you can do sci-fi, you could do mechas. You could do...
Oh boy, Gundam.
You could do Gundam. You could do a Gundam. You could do, like, a Pokemon game and have, like, little monsters that fight for you. They could
that's delightful.
They could do, like, magical girls and be, like, Sailor Moon or one like that. You could do Sentai, so you could do Power Rangers. You know? You could do this. You could do the Power Ranger team. Or you could do, like, very crazy ones. You could just do Slice of Life, where it's, like, literally, like...
Oh, man.
You could be, like, you're members of a band and go to school on an average day.
That's too good. I like that.
You could do it, is the thing, because it's so... They build for
it's
it.
Flexible.
Yeah, it's basically like, take attributes, there's maybe a few of the normal powers, and then just skills. And that's your character you'd have, for making, like, average student L, you know, or something like that.
What system did you say this was?
It's tri-stat, and use 2d6, basically, is what you use to roll. But they call it a tri-stat system. And, so the last one... I liked it. I played it. I think I did 2 games. It was a Cowboy Bebop game and a Full Metal Alchemist game. Because I did very popular, animes for that at the time. But I like BESM as a system. I'm a big anime fan. If you go to my YouTube side, there's an entire series where I talk about how to adapt various animes to BESM. I have an
That's
entire
cool.
goddamn
I need to
series.
check that out.
I did a lot of different animes. I was powering through those for quite a while.
I know for the games that I've played with you, Tantus, that I like the system.
Yeah.
And as you said, we had a team. We literally had a guy with a robot, I was like a ninja.
Yeah.
You had some like angelic character, and then like a martial artist.
Yeah.
Like all in the same system.
Yeah. Because, like, I think the last game I did, which was very interesting and open-ended, I believe I've talked about it long ago, was I was doing a, like, the world basically went crazy for a little bit. Like, all these other dimensions touched, like, our version of Earth. And so all this stuff bled into Earth, and then, like, the portals closed up, and all the after effects were left behind. And so there was, an entire generation of people that now had weird superpowers, basically, from being exposed to, like, all these weird dimensions and stuff. Or, like, alternate dimensions and things like that maybe, like, their ancestors came from, or maybe they came from it or something. Or, like, weird powers that had disappeared from our world woke up and things like that. And so, like, they threw them all into a school to teach them how to be, like, reasonable members of society kind of thing. And that was their class. So it was a team of people. But anyway, no. It's definitely something that, as I said, I was not seeing this coming. And the thing is, they're saying one of the people that's working on it is one of the original creators of it. Mark McKinnon. He was one of the people that helped develop the first edition of BESM. Because the first one, like, the first couple editions of BESM came out pretty rapidly, actually.
Really?
But
what? Hold on, sorry, because you keep saying it's ESM. How do you spell
BESM? It's Big Eyes Small Mouth. BESM. The game is called Big Eyes Small Mouth, though.
Okay, I was wondering that whole time because I'm like, man, I've never heard of this.
First edition came out in '97, so it's not that old. The second edition came out in 2001 because with most of these systems, usually that are new, they usually put out a second edition pretty quickly if there's a lot of problems. Third edition came out in 2006 then. So it has been 12 years since we've had an edition of this.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like usually when a system becomes good and you go for that, it's usually like maybe like every 8 years you get like a refresh. That's why I was like, I thought it was dead because it's beyond 8 years, you know. and the previous company that had it went under, you know.
Oh my, yeah, it's honestly kind of a miracle that we get to see a new edition of it.
Yeah, I think they're working with. I think White Wolf is publishing it too, because White Wolf has kind of moved from is a pretty big like just publisher nowadays, you know, at this point in time. And I think they might have ate up the company that had the rights to BESM, you know, when it dissolved, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, we don't know a lot about what it's going to mean for the 4th edition. That's one of those things. They haven't announced a lot about it. They're planning on releasing it this year, they're saying. So
I can't help but wonder if there's going to be a lot of radical changes because of how long the hiatus was between the 3rd and 4th edition for this one.
I'm pretty sure they're going to have something. There's some core aspects of the game that are really hard to change. The tri-stat, the 2d6, those were just basics. They made it easy. But maybe the nature of like how to purchase powers, how to customize powers might change radically. Because I remember I experienced some of 2nd edition BESM. Now, granted, I didn't have the actual 2nd edition BESM book. Back in the day of 2nd edition, they did a bunch of this anime, this book. And back in the early 2000s, I bought the Tenchi Muyo RPG book, which was basically BESM 2nd edition, but Tenchi Muyo flavored, because I'm still a big fan of that series of anime. Cool. Anyway, when I compare that to BESM 3rd edition, granted, you've got customizations for that anime world, but some of the basics are definitely different, and you can tell them, especially in the ways of customization. When I got the BESM 3rd edition, they opened up customization of power a lot more. There were there were a lot more things like they basically broke it down to things like, you know, range, area, you know, targets, things like that you could customize, you know, and that all powers had this basis of these numbers, and you could tweak them with more points and stuff like that. But it's
cool.
I'm interested as to like how they could evolve it. Definitely, I feel like you're right. They're gonna evolve it some way, because they do say they want to expand the game system. What the hell is that going to mean, though? Yeah,
like, when I think, you know, they're going to expand something, like, a big concern of mine that I usually have is, like, are they going to, like, overcomplicate mechanics that are already there, or are they going to streamline prior mechanics and then add some new ones that kind of like enhance it rather than like shift what it was originally designed around, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Because I hate to say it, the book was simple complex is a good way to call it. The system was incredibly simple. It was complex to make a character because you had a billion tons of stuff to look through and customize through, and you have to like, what the hell am I going to make? You know, you have that like, it's too much customization overture. You have, you know, that sometimes in video game RPGs you can get. You had a lot of that there.
Yeah, it's definitely an initial hurdle when starting off.
Yeah.
But I assume, like, you know, once you get past that, it's like, you know, not as bad.
Well,
so.
That's one of those things that I always liked being a GM for that one, is because you could basically like put your foot down on something. Like when I'm doing something like, let's say I'm doing Cowboy Bebop, there's no supernatural powers there. I might give you like, you might have more points than an average human, but you'd be like, you spend those on like combat skills and like maybe special guns and stuff like that you can build into, rather than just buying a gun. You purchase a weapon power, because they had an entire section called weapon under the powers that could be defined as like you have a supernatural like blast, or like maybe you actually have just some kind of custom weapon. You know, they left it pretty open-ended, but they could do that and do that customization. And then I have like a Full Metal Alchemist game where then they do have supernatural powers, but they're not like magical powers, they're like science supernatural.
Yeah.
But then if I did like a game with mecha, you're going to build a mecha. You're not going to have all the powers. I mean, it's like, depending on what you're building...
The mecha is the power.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like, depending on what you're building, depends on the system a lot of times. And that's a way that, like, you as the GM can, like, cut that down for players.
Okay. That's cool.
But then again, you can just go crazy, like the one I did with Blaze that he was talking about, where it's like, open the book, make something. Good luck.
Well, it's just like opening Pandora's box, essentially, at that point.
Well, fortunately, I had no new role players. I had and some of them were familiar with some BESM stuff from back in the day, but, like, that helped, you know, when opening those. If you have experience, you at least know what you're looking for a little bit more, even if you don't know the system as much.
Yeah, something for a few would be get into that system. As you said, yeah, it can be very overwhelming. But it's like, if you get like a character idea down before opening up the book, you then can be like, you know, I think in that thing, I was the ninja. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go look, what would a ninja have or something. So like, sort of like weapons or like most magical powers I didn't look at. I looked at more of like combat, like hand stuff.
You also chose to be, which was interesting, you were the secret cat girl. Because there was two cat girl characters. You were the secret cat girl who was like, you know, and the other one was just like the quintessential cat girl who took because they had like templates for playing like certain groups of things. And so both of you took the cat girl template, the other one took it and looked at the powers and were like, I'm just going to make these better. Than I get for being a cat girl. Just going to make them better. That was the weird difference between it. Was like, so I had two cat girls. The cat girl ninja and the cat girl that was just the quintessential cat girl. I think I also had someone who wanted to be Mega Man, who had like some like life steal powers and stuff like that. Who's trying to be more like,
man.
I think they were trying to be more X or something, but still.
Yes,
that's cool.
Yes, they were.
And of course, and then the vampire who was played by Joe, whose entire backstory was he had immigrated to America in like the 1800s and had gone into like a deep sleep, and so he woke up underneath a Chuck E. Cheese. So he emerged from his crypt and he found like there's something like over the top of my entrance to my crypt, and he bust up through a parking lot to get out under a Chuck E. Cheese.
What a humble origin story.
It's like, what the hell? But supernatural, like this weird thing that happened awakened him from his probably sleep that he would have never awakened from. Basically, people would have found him and he would have just been a body otherwise. But we awaken supernatural powers. But anyway, but BESM, back to that. You know, I like the system a lot from what I remember. You know, from playing it as 3rd edition. So I'm glad to see it's coming out. Again, I disagree with you, Lee. I'm worried that they're going to go too far in a direction, and maybe...
Yeah, I hope they don't, because this sounds cool.
They may pull a 4th edition D&D on us and go too far. Again,
yeah, that's what I was worried about.
4th edition D&D had some great lessons. but you had to go through that suffering of it in order to get those cool lessons. The idea of, I'm a wizard, I have a power at will that actually is decent, that I can replace with the normal sword stab, so I don't run out of, power or of stuff to do in battle, was a really awesome idea, introduced in 4th edition. Before then, wizards had, I've got my big spells, and I've got these cantrips, which are, shitty. And then I've got a dagger.
Cantrips aren't, half bad now. I think they're pretty decent.
Yes. It used to be, a good cantrip would do a d4 of damage, like a dagger.
That's it? That's
yes.
So weak. What?
Now it's sort of my good cantrip does a d8, like a weapons attack. And just like most classes that get multiple attacks, eventually the damage upscales when they would get multiple attacks. So now instead I just do more damage while they get multiple attacks. No, that was a good lesson from 4th edition that came in. Anyway, let's go on because this has been big talks. Let's talk about a board game because let's just throw something up here that's gonna be a big change. It's Bunny Kingdom in the Sky.
What a name.
It's bunnies in the clouds, and it's cute. I mean...
So what is the premise behind this?
I would have to get this from ELO. Sorry, ELO. Please give me the thing. Oh, man, I don't have...
Let me also pull it up as well.
I don't have the correct link here at the ready, because I accidentally did that. Oh, thanks, Board Game Geek. As usual, Board Game Geek. Great place to get some sudden bits of information if you can't find the proper website for anything. Okay, Bunny Kingdom in the Sky. Some basics about it.
I'm seeing a chocobo on the cover.
It's
Sorry.
basically a chocobo, yes.
Okay.
They don't really give a lot of information about it, is the sad thing I've got to say about this entire thing. Even Board Game Geek, which is a pretty good place about it, it's based on Bunny Kingdom. So it's an expansion, technically. See, I have never heard of Bunny Kingdom up till now.
I haven't either.
That's one of those things I gotta say. I never heard of Bunny Kingdom. It's sometimes you find these things, and I basically chose it because it had the most adorable name ever. And then looked up a couple things about it, It's ooh, Yellow's doing it. It's about bunnies and kingdoms of the sky. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me a teensy bit of Castles of Burgundy, because it seems like you're almost... I assume you're trying to build some things, maybe?
Yeah.
I'm not too sure.
Bunny Kingdom is you lead a clan of rabbits to glory by gathering resources and building new cities across the land. You draft cards, pick ones to the right of your position, and then you have warrens. You provide resources to your colonies. You build new cities to increase your influence. And then you settle into fields and lakesides to collect water, grow carrots, gather mushrooms in the green forest, climb the highest mountains to scare rare and precious resources. Rally rabbit lords and skilled masters to make your cities and resources even more valuable at the end of the game.
Huh.
And it's 4 turns. So I'm guessing it's probably very Castles of Burgundy. That sounds like it's not a lot with 4 turns, but probably...
Yeah, but it's got a ton of phases in between them.
Yeah, because 40 to 60 minutes normally. And the Castle in the Sky is basically new cards, resources, game pieces. Now you can have 5 players, it seems like. 5 bunnies playing at once that are added in by having this expansion. And the idea of, Skylands you could have, too. So you could have bunnies in the sky!
Oh man, it's like a child's dream.
Yeah. That's the thing is, it's out now, and that's the thing is, unfortunately, I have to say, ELO has been pretty bad with announcements. I like their stuff, but their website doesn't really throw out new information very well, and they haven't updated it a lot.
Oof, that's unfortunate. I'm probably wrong, but did ELO make King of Tokyo?
They did.
Yeah.
They did. Okay, cool. Because that name seemed familiar, and I swear I've seen that before.
Yeah, no. That's one of those things that they do still stuff for it here and there. It's just ELO is one of those ones that's hard to hear about things, unfortunately. I have to say, their last announcement that they had was last year in April on the 8th. So they announced this on their Facebook page very secretly. And like it's if you like look at it, like I'll have the link up when I put this up on YouTube eventually. That's the link I will give to their announcement of it. It's like 3 sentences of like, hey, we put this out.
Oh dear. That makes me wonder if they're like going under or something.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Or just bad like marketing.
Well, the big thing is I have to say, I don't know if they're independent or not, or if they're under the mighty thumb of Asmodee.
Oh, really?
Asmodee is a gaming company that technically has lots of little gaming companies under it. I can name one of the big ones under it. They have Fantasy Flight, who do things like the Star Wars RPG and a lot of the other big stuff. They are under Asmodee's preview.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I buy a lot of card sleeves from Fantasy Flight games, just because they got some nice ones.
Yeah. Asmodee is like, I would have to look up like all the different publishers that are like under it now, kind of, as they've evolved. Because yeah, like, it's one of those like weird little secret things that if you look into it, they have subsidiaries. Days of Wonder, Fantasy Flight, they have so many subsidiaries.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious as to how many more they have, because they gotta be like enough of them. But yeah, no. I wouldn't be surprised if they would also be eaten up if they're not going well. If that's the problem that's going on here. I don't know. But, yeah, no. Bunny Kingdom is definitely one that I totally missed. And the problem is with the Yellow. I could have easily missed it. You know, that's the problem I feel bad about, missing things from Yellow, because I like King of Tokyo. And they do some other games that I think I've talked about before, which are really cool. But if they're going to be, like, stealthy in their entire release of everything, it's like, how are we going to know about it? You know?
Yeah.
I'm not asking for, like... Again, I guess actually I would be asking for a little, like, heads up. You know, like, a lot of game companies at least tell you, like, hey, this is coming up soon. Or this is coming up soon. You know, this is what we got upcoming. You know?
Yeah. It's just basic marketing, you know? Because, like, if, like, the people who are interested in these products don't know that they're existing, then, like... You know, it's weird because it's like how do they expect to like stay afloat? You know, especially for like noble like people who like buy a lot of that stuff.
And the thing is, it's like a lot of those things get people talking about them. I'm sorry, USAopoly, which is a company I had talked about for a long time, has been throwing out 1 billion announcements over the past couple of weeks. We're going to be talking. One of the games today we're talking about is done by USAopoly, which we're talking a little bit. The Dungeon Academy. It's another one that do. We've been talking about like they were doing a Die Hard game.
Really?
Yes, it's supposed to be like one person takes on John McClane and the other people takes on the people trying to rob the place or something like that. They're doing.
That's a cool premise.
They're doing a couple of It games, like It Monopoly, and the one that me and Joe have a problem with, It Clue. It's Clue.
It as in the Stephen King novel?
Yes, but Clue.
I don't like that premise for Clue. That makes me really uncomfortable.
it's like as in the like latest movie version of it. We were like, we got Monopoly because they do Monopoly for everything. They had some other It-based, like, It property card game that seemed interesting, that actually worked, you know, when we read about it. You know, as, like, a kind of, like, you're against, like, a horror. But Clue.
Oh,
what?
Man. Yeah, like, that's so odd.
But like, the Die Hard one sounded cool. It's like Die Hard Nakatomi Plaza or something, I think it's called.
Yeah, like the Die Hard one sounds interesting because, like, you know, let's be real, like, the Monopoly and Clue one, it doesn't matter, like, what IP they are. Like, they're still fundamentally, like, the same game. It's just a different skin on it. But, like, the Die Hard one sounds like an interesting, like, sort of, like, take on both the franchise, and, like, it's cool to see, like, what the mechanics can be revolving around that, too, you know?
But, like, I'm just saying, like, the Clue one is just... The Clue one, they're doing something weird and horror-y for it, and I don't know what it's gonna be. But no. Yes, Yellow, please, throw us a bone and let us know about this, like, before you're releasing it to, like, places. They're like, it's out local game stores now. Great. I don't know.
Fooling?
I don't know if Facebook was the great place to put it. I'm guessing maybe Facebook wasn't okay if your Facebook community is better than your homepage community of your actual company's website. I guess maybe. I check out your website every week when I'm putting together the show. Yellow is one of those ones I've got that I go to directly when I'm looking for news and things to talk about. I keep looking for you to throw out something, and you don't.
Oh man, they did not deliver on Bunny Kingdom apparently.
No.
This Bunny Kingdom in the Sky even isn't on their website.
No.
Not even the base game?
Well, the base game is, but I'm saying the
Okay.
expansion that they're out in stores is not even on their website.
Yeah, like,
That's so whack.
I don't even know if it's up in their official store. Like, that's one of those things. Let's just check here.
No, I couldn't find it on there.
Yeah, they got Bunny Kingdom, but they don't have it out. Now, granted, a lot of times, I will say, if we checked in a week or a couple weeks, maybe it would be there up in their official store, because a lot of times these companies, especially smaller ones, like not your Fantasy Flights or your WizKids, they will put stuff out into stores before they sell it in their shops, just because they like having that connection with local gaming stores. You know, that's like, just those are their partners in the world kind of thing. They, unlike Wizards, they treat them right. Sorry, Wizards of the Coast, you shit on local game stores all the time.
Oh really? That makes me sad to hear. Oh man, I used to buy a ton of I think Wizards of the Coast did like the Pokemon trading card game.
They did Pokemon trading card game for a while before Nintendo took it over officially. But they were the first.
Oh really?
Ones
I didn't know that.
They were officially the first ones that did it. They might have connections to it still, but they're not as big on it as they used to be. They're not directly the releasers of it anymore. But like, one of those little known facts, the overhead on Magic is crap. Why do you think I think there's a secondary Magic market that's in like every game store? Because that's where you get money on Magic cards, by selling in singles, unfortunately.
Dang, that's a shame.
And they removed the MSRP, the manufacturer's like suggested price. They got rid of that on Magic cards now, so that might hurt them even more technically. They might not. It's this weird double-edged sword, because it allows them to compete with things like a Walmart that might want to sell Magic cards, or Amazon. But Amazon always is really good at undercutting stuff. They are one of the best. As someone that buys Magic cards a bunch, there are two places I go to. There's a small local game store which does more sports card stuff, so we can sell Magic on the side for a pretty good price. And then there's Amazon sometimes. Those are the two places I go, because those are the best goddamn prices. Because Amazon can just cut the stores very easily. A lot of stores
Amazon
can't compete with that, though. And now the MSRP is open, Amazon can go whatever price they want, because that's the suggested price, and I guess they don't want you so far off from the suggested price kind of thing, but anyway, that's just Wizards adding a double-edged sword kind of thing.
Right.
Well, talking about Bunny Kingdom, I actually finally did find it on their store.
Okay.
After I had to go into their categories, into the strategy games, and into the extended page. Finally, I found the expansion.
Oh dear.
Oh my god.
It's not user friendly at all.
Yeah, I found it now too. Yeah, like when I googled, when they put their search for Bunny Kingdom, it doesn't show up.
Yeah.
It's like the second page of their thing, and they don't have it like on their front page, like showing it off that it's new. God, that's just
maybe they just don't want people to buy it. Maybe someone who designed the game is like, yo, this isn't that good, but like, we gotta sell this. We gotta put this on the market for the fans.
There could have been a lot of different things that could have happened on the back end. Yeah, that actually could be a story, or even it could be someone like one of the main designers, there was a bridge burned or something that happened badly, so they just want to especially if it's someone that might get royalties from the product.
Right.
The thing is, they could also be putting it out, and maybe similar to TV series, that a lot of times they'll scuttle a network will scuttle a TV series as a tax write-up. Maybe it's a tax write-off. Bunny Kingdom the Sky, the tax write-off of Bunny Kingdom. I don't know. this is one of those things is like, unless, because I noticed this from another news source that I was reading up on some things that were coming out with, I wouldn't have known about this if they hadn't said something there, you know?
Yeah.
You needed an extra just to tell you, this is here! Yellow didn't tell us!
That's so bizarre. There has to be a story behind, like, the whole obscurity of this expansion.
I'm sure there is, but...
Gosh.
Anyway, we still got a couple more things to talk about. Let's talk about Conan, the Monolith Sourcebook. We're going back to RPGs for a second here, just because I liked talking about the Conan RPG. I've got to say that. It's one of those ones that I find kind of interesting, just because, you know, the old Conan movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger, I liked them. The Conan animated series back in the 90s, I liked that one a lot. That was like, I have to say, it's next to like things like the X-Men and like Batman and stuff like that. It's one of those series that I've always really liked a lot. This one is right along those lanes. So, the thing about this, which is very weird, is the Monolith Sourcebook is for the fans of the Conan board game, which was kickstarted like this year, like last year, I think it was.
That's really recent.
Yeah. So there was a big Kickstarter with this board game. It was award-winning, and this is like the award-winning like role-playing game system is adding a new campaign, some solo rules, and a bunch of options for your normal Conan RPGs based upon the board game, which I'm pretty sure from what I kind of read up on it, as I recall, was still based on, because this Conan RPG is very heavily the books. You know, they're focusing on Howard Roberts' books, and they got like, I remember when it first came out, they were like working with the Conan writer, the original Conan writer's family, you know. I think some other people have written for Conan before, but like Howard E. Robert was the first one to build stuff in Conan, things like that.
Yeah.
And then that board game was taking some, was kind of taking some influence from the RPG, and of course the source material, because you're always going to the source material, definitely, but like some of the influence from that, and building their board game, so that like, yes, it's Conan, but like we learned a few lessons from that RPG. But now they're taking the lessons from the board game and going back to the RPG.
Oh, there's so many layers to this, which, like, oh man, it's strange.
It's all based on the books. You know?
Yeah, like, ugh. I wonder if that would translate to like some confusion from understanding it from like the player's like side of things, because of like how many layers are involved with this new Conan RPG. You said, right?
Well, the thing is, it also adds stuff to the board game too with this book.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no. So it's got stuff for your RPG, but it's also got some information that they have like a couple of campaigns and scenarios you can, like, similar to like things like, you know, Betrayal House on the Hill and stuff like that you can play with the board game. And solo and cooperative campaign modes for the board game with new scenarios for that, because I'm guessing like the board game might be a little bit more like against each other kind of things. Plus then a role-playing adventure campaign based upon stuff from the board game and previous adventures in it. Oh my god. Like, it's...
That's a lot all in one package.
I think it's just like, it's they're just pleasuring each other and like building off of each other in this like mess.
Yeah. I mean, I guess from a marketing standpoint that's kind of smart, but like, I don't know, I almost feel like they're trying to like pack too much into like one thing. I mean, I get the idea, like trying to enhance like the board game as well if you have the opportunity to do that, but like, shouldn't that be like separate from the RPG thing though? Or...
You would feel that it would be, but I feel like this source book is like Modiphius and Monolith producing it together is basically what it is. You know, it's the two of them are like, let's get together, yeah, let's put a book out, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of insane, I think, to a degree. Then again, as much as I've liked this system, I've also made fun of it a lot, because, like, every goddamn source book that they put out is based on yet another one of Conan's misadventures. So it's like, Conan the Pirate, Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Thief, Conan the Mercenary, Conan the Bandit. I'm like, God damn it. That time he was a bandit for that one book. That time he was like a thief breaking into people, like being all ninja-y. That time he was... That's not all the books, but they do that with a lot of those books that I just love. Like, it's just like, this... Why?
Oh, man.
This is just another one of those weird books that I'm like...
Just why does this exist?
There's certain ones that I'm like, I'm all for. Like the Thief one, it's stupid, but I understand why you're putting it out. It's like, you could play more thieving characters in Conan RPG adventures. You don't have to just be the barbarian. It's like, great. I'm glad that Conan was a thief for like 5 minutes over in that book. I'm glad you can grab a source book with it. It works RPG standard-wise. It's still stupid sounding, but it works.
Gosh. The way they get these things to work is just beyond me. Ugh. Like, they'll just take, like, any, like, small bit of information. It's like, hey, we can make a class or something out of this, you know?
There are certain ones that I would love to see more of, because Modiphius does the Star Trek one, too. Bring me more books, Star Trek Modiphius thing. I want, like, your Gamma Quadrant book, and your Delta Quadrant book, and your Alpha Quadrant book, because I think you only have the Beta Quadrant book. You didn't talk about the Alpha Quadrant. They're planning
definitely some
on it.
pent-up rage.
They're
against
planning
this
on
company.
it. They're planning on it. I like a lot of the stuff they do, but they just sometimes... They're not as bad as Steve Jackson Games. I think it's Steve Jackson Games' pent-up rage, which always is with me eternally. Those are the people that do Munchkin, and they just do bad things. Bad things so many times. I love them, but bad things.
As someone who enjoys casually playing Munchkin with friends, that makes me sad to hear.
It's just that they do really stupid stuff sometimes. It's just... I'm pretty sure the Munchkin CCG is dead. Because they did that.
I didn't know they had a collectible card game.
They did! They tried to compete with Magic. It was expensive.
What?
It was expensive and slightly difficult in a stupid way. It wasn't a bad game because me and Joe tested it out. But we had our complaints about it, and we also were like, the CCG market is pretty dead. It's kind of hard to break into it. You know what breaks into it most of the time? Japanese CCGs, when they have an anime or a manga about it, because then they build up a fan base there, and when Americans start hearing about this great CCG from Japan, they're like, let's try it too. It worked for Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! and Card Fight Vanguard. Alright, I'm done.
It's all good. No, I like that. There's passion behind your words.
Oh my god.
Oh man, that's good.
Anyway, Conan! It's a weird thing. Maybe not a bad thing, but a weird thing. It kind of relies on you having both the board game and the role-playing game. I guess this is for ultra Conan fans.
Yeah, for the hardest of the hardcore.
Do you guys have anything else? My brain's died there on this one.
Not too much. I don't really know too much about the Conan universe aside from did Fabio do like the cover art for like one of the Conan things, or am I crazy?
He could have done cover art for a Conan book of somewhere along the way, just because he originally had that chiseled look. Then duck hit him in the face or something.
Oh!
While he was on a roller coaster, bird hit him in the face.
Oof.
But no, and like if you think about like 90s or 80s Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's your quintessential like Conan. He was very Conan, you know. That's why he did like 2 or 3 movies from it. Hey, I'm going to talk about something by USAopoly. We brought them up. Again, they're talking about a crap ton of shit this year. I'm saying shit a lot, more than I've done. I guess I've just gotten passionate today. Dungeon Academy, which is like one of those like explorer tile building games, except you like each round you create a dungeon by rolling 16 dice and then creating a layout based on those dice. So the dungeon changes like every...
Based on dice?
like it was supposed to be like, every like round of gameplay, the dungeon changes. You like roll a bunch like these 16 dice and tells you what's going on in the dungeon.
Oh, that's pretty dynamic, actually.
Like, they keep things pretty simple in a way. They don't have like massive amounts of tiles and stuff. They have like, I think, like pretty simple boards and things, and like then the dice and stuff that you're rolling. So it doesn't have the same kind of connection that you might have with probably much more expensive like tile layout games, like the Dungeons and Dragons board games that they do nowadays. But by both keeping it simple and dynamic, well, they like keep the price down for one thing, but they also make it like then that God damn it, I want to I'm trying to get the image of Dungeon Thingamabob up and running, and it's fighting me. Don't fight me, Dungeon Academy.
Curse you, Dungeon!
Curse you, Dungeon Academy! You got away with it this time, but next time you won't have He-Man to save you. I mean, look, that I did kind of do a Skeletor voice there. Meh. I'll get you next time, He-Man. Anyway, so it's all about getting your diploma at Dungeon Academy. I think it's 1 to 6 players, they say here, that can play. Let me just check here. Where they have product information. They have it right there. Ages 10 months. They say it's only 20 minutes of gameplay. So that's another one thing about it, is a quicker gameplay. Yeah, 1 to 6 players. And it's basically like you're creating little dungeons with costs based upon the dice. So it's like you're not putting down any major like tiles or cards or anything like that. You're rolling a bunch of dice and using that to determine like, this is the dungeon I'm in now. You know?
Oh, neat.
Yeah. And you've got health and mana, of course. And you're basically, it's like you're taking tests. And like you're trying to, it's like 4 levels. So it's each competing in like 4 different rolls with these 16 dice that will determine like, they also determine like what monsters are in there, maybe what traps are in there, things like that. So I'm throwing off these dice and I'm basically like, yes, they're 6-sided dice, but I'm using all these combinations to build these factors of like, you know, it's theater of the mind for a role-playing game. It's really what it is, based on a pile of dice.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool.
See, normally, okay, I know this is probably like very polarizing, I guess, how I view this, but normally I'm not super crazy about using dice in board games. I am much, much more of a card person for games, because I like the predictability of knowing each of the different components that are kind of in a deck. That said, I think for this game, it's really cool to see how the dice affect it, because the randomness actually makes it much more interesting in that it determines like the different trials and challenges you face within the dungeon. And I think that, in effect, helps a lot more for replay value than simply having, like, I guess, like, okay, just roll like a 6. If you win, like, this game, then, like, you get to win this encounter. Like, you know.
It gives you an idea of like the kind of things you're encountering on these levels, and like each person's characters has their different things. It looks like there's like decks of cards, treasures. Each character would have powers, health, and mana. I'm sure that like defeating certain monsters would give you treasures, which might would do them. So it's like a balancing act of probably like on every level you don't want to lose all your stuff. Because I'm guessing it's probably pretty simplistic. Like, you have stats for, like, oh, you're going to be fighting a blob. The blob would do you this much damage, or cost this much mana, or something like that. Cost this much health or mana. Maybe you can play a card that you earned from a previous monster to play it. If you defeat it by taking some things, you earn some things. You know, so it's like... It keeps a dynamic of, like, risk-reward almost in that way, too. And that maybe each character has their own little abilities, too. So if you're more like a mage, you're maybe better at mana, or if you're an archer, maybe you're better at with health and stuff. So that maybe, like, you want to go fight blobs and not the ghosts. So, like, one of the other players might go fight the ghosts.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Still allows for specialization and all that fun stuff.
It looks like they've got warriors, pirates, monks, and rogues are...
Pirates?
Yeah.
That's cool.
A selection of heroes. They're the ones that these are the ones that suggest. Like, a warrior can defeat a colossus at no cost. So there's like a colossus monster. Warrior can kill it, no cost. No health or mana or anything. a pirate who gains extra glory for going through predetermined rooms. And I'm sure how that works. I'm guessing glory is what you need to graduate.
Right, like the victory points of that game or something.
Yeah. Monk can heal can switch the healing potions of powers of potions. So basically, I guess he can switch between, like, if you have a mana potion and a healing, like a health potion and a mana potion, you can switch those.
That's handy.
And then Rogue, who starts the game with 2 loot cards. So I'm guessing you start with 1 normally.
Oh.
There are 10 heroes, all with their own basically equipment and special abilities. And you get the treasures that are going to help you keep going and defeating things. So very interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah. So Dungeon Academy. I think USAopoly's hitting it out of the park with a lot of their stuff, except for Clue. That's the only one. Well, again, it might be really awesome game. Just don't call it Clue. I just feel like no matter what they do, it's not gonna feel Clue enough.
When I think Clue, I definitely don't think, because it is like, it's kind of like a slasher sort of like novel/movie, no?
Yeah, it's got like some kind of horrible monster which is stalking people, and like children and then adults, which I did see that they announced this second part where they're adults, which is, I did end up seeing it. I think the original miniseries with Tim Curry is still better, but it's a pretty good remake, pretty good take on it. I'll give my 2 cents there, because Tim Curry, it's Tim Curry. Sorry. Just watch the movie Clue with Tim Curry, and it's wonderful. And a lot of other really good actors. Watch it, if you haven't.
I keep forgetting there's a movie for Clue. That's so strange to me.
It's so not Clue, but yet being Clue, and it's like, it's wonderful. It's like, I don't know how they did it, but they did it, and it was just like, wow, this is great. It was like a box office bomb, but it's like one of those cult classics that I would highly recommend as a comedy movie. Highly recommend.
Nice.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome. And you don't have to know actually how to play Clue, even though I do like Clue as a game, and very rarely do people want to play it. One tabletop, like not on a normal Sunday, because that'll probably scare people away. I should be just like, I want to play Clue one night, and just grab a bunch of people and we'll just play Clue for like a while. just Clue. Anyway, Dungeon Academy. It's been announced. It's coming soon. It's from USAopoly is putting it out.
Coming to a local retailer near you.
Yeah. Now, I do have 2 more. I think we might go a little late, which is we missed last week, but we shouldn't go too much past 1:30 here. I hope you two are okay for for half an hour. So we'll try to get these done.
Yeah, I can stay here until 4 at the latest.
Okay, so we should be able to get these done.
Yeah.
Alien, the RPG, has been announced.
I wish I would have heard about this before, because that actually sounds like a really cool RPG. Because I'm a huge fan of I've seen the first 2 movies. I have the Alien Legendary Encounters deck builder game, and like hearing that there's going to be like, I think a tabletop RPG, was it?
Yeah.
Like that's promising.
I have to say, I've seen all the Alien movies and all the spin-off Alien movies, and I've played a couple of Alien-based games, and if those that I haven't played, I have had the good fortune of watching some people play through it. I.e., I haven't played Alien Isolation myself, but I have watched someone play through all of it, and it's a wonderful thing, and I do feel like I do want to play it on my own, because even if you it's a long enough game that, like, I could be familiar with something, but it's the dynamics of the horrible thing stalking you, and you're not going to remember where all the rooms are. Yeah.
And the alien itself, the AI of the alien is, like, incredibly... It's I think it's one of the best designed, like, stalker AIs I've ever seen in the game, because that thing is, like, incredibly unpredictable, yet it's predictable in some aspects. Like, it's scared of the flamethrower, right? It reacts to sound. But at the same time, it's like, you don't know where it's going to be going, and, like, if it's going to go through a vent, it's going to impale you when you go through a door. It's just...
or when you're trying to save it, you all of a sudden get impaled because it's, like, got it behind you.
Yeah, that's like one of the craziest things I've seen in any game.
Because it takes a little while to save your game.
Yeah, like it's so trolly, but I love it because like if you're scared to use a save point, I think that's one of like the most meta and like genuinely terrifying things ever. Oh, it's so good.
So this is an official Alien tabletop game, and well, for a minute going back to the movies, I liked the original movie. I think one of my favorite movies is Aliens. I have to say, like, because it's I as much as horror is okay with me. I'm not the biggest fan of horror. The action horror of it, I like that a lot better, because that's what it was. It was suspense horror and action horror, and they're two very different genres, but they're the same world, and they work very well together. I think Alien and Aliens, that's what I have to say about those two.
I found the second film a lot more accessible compared to the first, and I'm saying this as someone who watched these films, I think, like 3 or 4 years ago for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the interesting thing about the first was the idea of building up the suspense, and I thought it was neat, because I felt like we didn't really get to know that Ripley was like the actual protagonist until like a little bit later in the film, which I thought was cool, and very divergent, I'd say, for like the film industry.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, I think it was just, I don't know if it was more appealing because of the action, but I felt like the pacing was a bit better, because I felt like the first one was just like pure, oh my god, what's going to happen on this crazy alien world, LV-288, I think it was called. But the second one, it's like, we know of the threat, we know what we're getting ourselves into, but man, it can still be unpredictable and scary, even though we're armed with these.
I think it's tools. Like the I know what I'm getting into until it's the, oh wait, I don't know what I'm getting into kind of thing. You know? It's like you got all this information about the thing, but as soon as like there's more than one, it becomes like an entirely different dynamic, and it's like, oh, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and when you take the unpredictability of like one xenomorph and just add like more than one, it's like there's too many variables to possibly account for, and it's just. And
I will always like the alien nesting kind of areas where they're like you just can't see them in the walls, because they blend in with like the material that they have on the walls. They're just they're all along until they move. But so yeah, they're doing a tabletop RPG based on this kind of thing. Yeah, I'm curious as to how like they're gonna necessarily bring in like the full alien experience and like the setting experience. Like they do say like you can do very like, it's meant to be cinematic play, which is good. Cinematic RPG or RPGs exist. Like, I'm sorry, Star Trek, which we did a little bit, it's a much more cinematic. There's dice rolls, but really it's a lot of that interactions between each other and discussing things, it's like, that's much more cinematic kind of thing. That's what it's made to be. You're supposed to have a lot of those things. You can definitely, they say it's designed for more campaign style play. That's great.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like the idea of having a long-term version of that too, just kind of seeing like the Colonial Marines kind of get stronger as you go along.
Well, they say they call it two distinct modes, that you can have it more like that you can have like your cinema play, which is like the single movie, or like the campaign play, which is maybe going Alien to Aliens to Alien 3.
Oh, okay. That's super cool, actually. I like that.
Which I feel like, and then the fourth one, which is just okay. Look, the first two are really good. Third one, I was never quite a huge fan of. It wasn't too terrible, but it had like some really stupid stuff in it. Fourth one, some good stuff and then some really, really bad stuff.
Oh.
Uh-huh. That's why I feel like Alien Isolation is a much better sequel to those entire things.
It's canon too, isn't it?
They talk about it being... I think like they've done some canon stuff for it because it was done by the people that did it, and I think they've done like some comics or something that have expanded upon Ellen Ripley. It's not Ellen Ripley. It's what's her daughter's name? Another Ripley.
I don't remember. Yeah, Ripley Jr.
Ripley Jr. And there's always been talk of more games, but who knows? It's like one of those weird ones in ether. So they are using
the sequel. It landed on a cliffhanger too, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. So they are using the 2D20 system, I think, because it's using the Year Zero engine, the Tales from the Loop and Mutant Year Zero system. Because the people that do Mutant Year Zero, I believe, are Modifius, who we were talking about. I think they're... Yeah, I think it's... Not the video game. Thank you, Mutant Year Zero. I want the RPG, which is done by Modifius. Yep, it's Modifius. The people that do Conan and Star Trek do Mutant Year Zero. They're the role-playing one, the people that run that role-playing system. And it's based upon that system. So I'm fairly certain it's probably going to be a 2D20 system similar to Star Trek, most likely. I'm not... I unfortunately have not tested out the Year Zero engine, which is, I know, similar, but it probably has its differences. You know, like the 2D20 system that Modiphius has in a lot of their games are very similar to each other, but have little differences. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
So we know kind of where the system is coming. I'm not sure who does it. It's supposed to be 3 years since what happened, I guess, on... it's the disappearance of the Sulaco. So it's... so that's... It's 3 years after the Aliens movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think. Because it's the loss of the Sulaco's colonial marine units along with the outpost there as implications from LV 426. And apparently there's, like, stuff going on there that may involve aliens.
Oh, boy.
Uh-huh. And that's basically what we know right now. you know?
That's
we
cool.
we don't have a huge amount of information other than that. I mean, you can sign up for their mailing list. You can check out all their stuff on the website. They have a small video trailer. You said you saw it, Lee?
Yeah, I saw it a bit. It didn't. Well, I mean, obviously, it didn't show any of the components about it, but it felt very cinematic for a tabletop RPG trailer,
Yeah.
and I think the way that it was presented, in addition to me actually liking the universe, actually has me very excited for this, despite again, not having too much experience with tabletop RPGs. But this is something I would actually be super into trying. So
yeah, no, I agree too. I hope that they put out with tradition of a lot of RPGs now. I would hope that they would throw out some kind of either quick start or beginners thing for it that we can check it out, test it out. That's the only unfortunate thing I have to say about nowadays. A lot of RPGs, because there's a lot of weird RPGs out there, throw out little guides or something. Again, as Worm said, the Star Trek one doesn't help a lot if you're trying to build a character from scratch. If it provides some characters and some basic information about how to play the game, if you're building a character on your own, does not help. But for playing the game, it's a decent thing. That's what the Kickstarter's supposed to be. It's gives you some example characters and probably the basic rules. Anyway. You know what? I think, since we're getting late on here, I think we're going to skip out on Star Wars Outer Rim. I wanted to talk about it a little bit because it was a kind of interesting looking one as a Star Wars board game. For a bunch of players, you're supposed to be bounty hunters and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
And smugglers, mercenaries, that kind of thing. So it's neat. Fantasy Flight put it out now. I'd say check it out if you're interested in it. If you're a big Star Wars fan, we'll just keep it simple as that instead of diving depth into it, so we can get to our regular segments, which I don't think I have a huge amount of regular segments right now. I didn't have anything to deeper discuss. I didn't test any games out. Our Week in Tabletop. Hey, that's a segment we can go and talk about. We did have a little bit of tabletop. We played... What the heck did I play on Sunday? See, my brain forgets from Saturday.
Burgundy.
Castles of Burgundy! Yeah. We mentioned it, and my brain already forgot about it. Castle of Burgundy's fun. We did get it done. I think it took us 2.5 hours, but it was a couple of us' first time playing, and me and Blaze hadn't played it in years, so we were definitely rusty.
That was my first time playing it. I was the game took a little bit long, but man, it was really relaxing, and I was into it, even though it was just it wasn't the most complex thing ever, but it's just it's cozy,
Yeah, and there's some very interesting dynamics. It's I think there are certain plays I probably could have done better, I think, on my end. But there's things like the idea of the ships, which you can get stuff from, and then it also makes you possibly the first player more, and it keeps increasing the first player, and you keep have that dynamic of changing the order of everybody, and if everybody would compete for ships and stuff. But there's also things like the mine, and buying stuff from the black market, which can actually be very helpful, getting those mines early on. I think there were certain things I definitely didn't leverage enough, and getting some of those knowledges that gave me bonus at the end of the game points,
I completely ignored the ship thing until the very end, just because I was really going on like the whole, like, you know, mainly just like the buildings, and the gold ones are called knowledge, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was mainly focusing around those two because, like,
Yeah.
you know, my strat was kind of devolving into, I think, like the town hall, where I just kept getting like a combo chain of like
Yeah,
get
no.
a town hall, do another thing, get a town hall, do another thing, and then get the knowledge from having like the town hall and just kind of capitalizing on that. Like that was my dominant strategy, at least.
The thing is, there's a bunch of the buildings which are really good for comboing in, because if you build them, either allows you to build something else, or it allows you to take another tile. And that thing is, either way, that's one less dice you have to spend. And that's the thing is, those are the combos. Like, even like building the castle is an automatic combo on its own. Like when you build one of those castles, because you get another free dice of anything. That's what it is. Those are the wild card combos. But, like, I think Joe's strategy of going straight shipping was actually really good.
Really?
But he got really lucky for a lot of different things. Like, there's a couple of things that he got that made that viable.
If he didn't get that one knowledge at the very end of, you know, getting points for all the stuff he sold...
Yeah.
That gave him, like, the win. Because that was, like, a whole lot of points.
And,
but I think, as you said, we hadn't seen all the knowledges, so that one next time might never come up.
Like, in Blaze, didn't you have the one knowledge that was based on one of the buildings you built a bunch of?
Well, yeah, as soon as I saw that knowledge, I had a few of those buildings, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just building more of them.
Yeah, no. That was very good. And that was, I think that was the big strategy, because you were doing pretty solid otherwise, and I think it's little things like that put you ahead. You know, that put you ahead of everyone else. Like, I didn't really have any good end-of-game points. And I think that was where I faltered more than anything. While Lee, I think that was one of those weird things, is you, like, really stacked yourself back-end, you know? Which can work sometimes. And the thing is, it got you a pretty solid third place. You were not... No one was so far off. I think I was the farthest off, and I wasn't so far off that I didn't feel like I was, like, destroyed.
Right. Yeah, it seemed like a decent strategy. I think I could have done better by stacking. I think I was going for sheep, maybe like earlier game.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's, and I completely ignored, what was it, like the castle spaces? Those are like the dark green ones.
Yeah.
I didn't touch those like at all. I probably should have, because that would have involved me getting more dice.
Yeah, that's like, those are like bonus dice of anything you want. That's the thing, is like it's there's certain things that are really good, but it's like you don't necessarily need to. Like, I think there was like also like, I think you did you could have focusing down animals is actually a really good strategy for that 5 spot. If you get 5 of a certain type of animal, you're gonna get so many points that might get it for you, you know. Exactly. It's just like, the thing is, it's a lot of luck to get 5 of all the same type of animal and be the first to get it too.
Yeah, that's true.
So, Cows and Burgundy is very fun. We'll probably have to try it again another time, you know, just add it into the list of some time. I have a lot of games. I try to do, like, I think, like, because Sundays I try to do a different game each time. Maybe I should just have, like, another day of doing some tabletop where we could just do some things we've already played or something like that. I don't know. There's a few games that I would do again on Sundays. One of them is Secret Hitler, because it's the best for a lot of players. You know, that's my, like, go-to. We got 1 billion people. Let's just do some Secret Hitler.
Exactly.
I think the other thing I did this week was we did Star Trek last weekend. We didn't finish it up.
We did.
That was fun. It took a little longer to do the one shot than I wanted, and we couldn't go too late, unfortunately, just for the circumstances. Just because also, like, I felt like the first hour, it took us all a while to get hold of our characters and the setting and all that stuff, which my kind of original plan for the one shot was putting that more at, like, 20 minutes. And then, like, there was a little other things which kind of detracted with stuff, and it got a little bit of, like, getting things in hand. Not now, Aurora. Behave yourself. So I think that's what really made it a little longer. So we are going to finish that up, and I think that's Monday we're planning on finishing that up. So.
Right.
Do you have anything to say about Star Trek?
Okay, so this is the part where I mention a couple of things. One, I'm going to say for Monday, go ahead and then go without me, because I have some things planned for this Monday.
Oh, is you have things planned for this Monday, so we have to change it?
No. Well, I'm saying like I'm gonna have to dip out of that campaign, so you guys go.
Okay, because we're just gonna finish up the one shot. Pretty much was the plan to do that for now.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Sorry about that. It's just some things.
Well, if your schedule doesn't allow, because the thing is, like, I've been trying to get it soon. Give me a minute here. Why don't you talk about? Okay, what's up?
Sure. Let's see. So the Star Trek campaign is neat.
I'm almost done. I was gonna say. Well, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say the Star Trek campaign was neat. I think I went into it with like the wrong expectations because I think it primarily was about like the exploration.
I think that's the other thing that I made a mistake on. Like I know you, Rachel and Lindsay. Like Rachel a little bit, but you and Lindsay Moron had very little idea about Star Trek as a thing.
Oh really?
Yeah. So
give me 1 second.
That's sure. That's fine. Like you didn't know a lot about it. And so I did not give you guys a crash course in the universe. And I think that was another mistake I made. I needed to give a crash course in the universe. I should have prepared with a little extra time for, people getting used to the system because technically all of us were new to the system. Every last one of us. I don't think there was not a single person that was not new to the system. I'll just leave that on. Me taking up weird screens.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Heading into work.
No, that's fine. But I was saying, like, I didn't give people... I gave people a crash course in the system. I didn't give crash course in the setting at all. That was a problem that I recognized that I made. And I didn't account for... None of us had played Star Trek before. Not even myself. So that did mean it was going to take longer. Like, I had read through a good chunk of the book. I read through how to play the game. But that doesn't make you practically able to use it. Again,
I think the thing... So I mentioned I went into it with, like, the wrong expectations. I think I was expecting it to go similar to, like, Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah.
Where there... Because, like, where there would be, like... I'm trying to think. I guess, like, the best way to put it is that I guess I expected, like, more conflict or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, because it seemed, like, very laid back. Because I think, like, the biggest sources of conflict were at the very end with the part of the crew trying to fix the parts of the ship that were, like, malfunctioning, and the other half trying to understand what the weird crystal stuff was all about.
Yeah. Which, technically speaking, like, none of you got the hints, which was really cool, like, what I was doing. I was actually, like, doing some pretty big references there that were kind of interesting.
Oh, nice.
But that's the thing about a Star Trek episode is, depending on the way you tell the story, you can have a very story-based one similar to this that's more exploration. Oh, there's some kind of weird time travel thing going on or something like that. You could have a you versus something in space. You could have your ship versus an enemy ship, or you could have more human-to-human conflict. They all exist. But it's also that kind of thing that, like, Starfleet's first thing is, like, well, can we resolve this peacefully, rather than get into a fight,
Yeah.
Not that you don't have those that are in Starfleet that are, like, ready to join, like, to throw into it and, like, draw their phaser if need be, They're like, I trained for this, words don't always work, we gotta be ready, to shoot persons when it's ready, you gotta be ready for it. But, no.
Yeah. I was definitely ready to, like, diffuse, like a hostile situation too, because it's like, oh man, I got negotiation. It's like, ooh, I can't wait for there to be an NPC where it's like, hey, I don't want to fight. Like, I don't want to put this phaser on kill. If you
there was possibilities of NPCs, and you didn't get to them. That was the problem.
That's a shame.
There was stuff at the end that was going to be, like, interesting, and you were the kind of back half there. It's just, I don't know if I needed another, as I said, I don't know if I need another hour or 2 hours to finish the story. I don't know. But we'll have to discuss what's going on with it on the back end. I would like to get everybody. If we can't get everybody, I don't know if I'll do it with less people. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'll probably throw up some discussion on our Discord channel I made for that, and we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
It was also wrangling 6 players.
I was going to mention, like, I think that might have been, like, the biggest reason, like, why certain things took so long, because, like, I was definitely under the impression that, like, that one part at the door where, like, we were trying to, like, go in the ship, I thought that was going to go a lot faster, but, like, I don't know. I felt like a little bad because I was getting impatient. I'm like, yo, I want to go in this door. It's like, like I get the
Yeah.
idea with like scanning a lot, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like I had to take some initiative to kind of like get people to be like, yo, let's go inside, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like it's like some of the things that could have like happened there. Like a good thing would have been like, you could have just been like, did scan? You could have been like, do scans show any danger? I'll take a look inside while you continue scanning it for information. That could have been like the things, you know. It's like if there's no danger on the scanners, it's like I'll go check it out. You know, would have been a reasonable thing to say, and it's just like there's some disconnects because I think it's also like you guys didn't have a leader dynamic.
That's true. Yeah. We were all kind of like, I guess, kind of like not doing our own
like
thing,
as much as you were a command character. I think it's like this entire thing that we said is like, I should have put Joe in charge because he's more familiar with role-playing and more familiar with Star Trek in general. In this circumstance, with experience, regardless of characters, his character should have been put in charge on the planet. And that
I agree.
You would have had a commander. It would have made it a lot better. So, like, there was a couple of mistakes I made, and it's like, again, it's a very different system than Dungeons & Dragons, and it's getting a hold of all that and running that. You know, it's getting some dynamics about it. And that's the problems we had.
Yeah, and even as a player, like, you know, I was also like, oh man, there's quite a lot to learn about this universe too, because like, you know, I have a little bit of familiarity with Dungeons and Dragons, and it's just, it's kind of interesting seeing the different mechanics kind of unfold, you know, and like, it was definitely a learning experience for all of us.
It's also that thing of like D&D. It's normally like 50-50 time. It's either a pre-established world, which the thing is, when someone's doing a pre-established world in D&D, they're taking parts of it, or they're making their own little part of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Not that I can't do that in Star Trek. It's just that in D&D, if I make crap up, I'm in the land of Faerun, which is one of the main canon worlds, I can still make crap up and people be like, yeah, that's fine, you know? If I do
because
something
it fits into the universe, essentially.
If I do something with Star Trek, it has to fit in Star Trek, and it's a lot more difficult. It has a lot more universe to it.
Yeah.
That's why I was referencing a billion things that I did a lot of research on to, like, so I was referencing, there's this species that appeared in this very old episode of Star Trek that's like a, you know, pre-warp civilization, cool. You know, and they don't talk about their star system. Hey, I invented a planet that was in their star system, you know, that kind of thing. I could do that. It made sense that maybe there was another planet nearby to these people because we only saw them ever, you know?
Yeah. And I bet Joe must have loved that because he was probably getting like most of those references.
He was getting probably a few of them, but, you know.
I see.
I don't know how. It's like I didn't talk to him about how many, but yeah. So it was an interesting one shot. It was fun, but I would say between me and the players, we all needed work, definitely. And I don't think that. I think wrangling 6, you need the correct 6, and I don't think we had a perfect dynamic between all of us because 6 is hard to get a perfect dynamic between all of us. Granted. It could have been characters, too, because character dynamic and player dynamic, they sometimes can fix those.
Yeah.
You know,
they go hand in hand. Almost.
Yeah. So it might not just be that you people as players can get together along. They need the characters to do it, too. And then so getting back to This Week in Tabletop, just because I want to try to get this done pretty quickly.
Sure.
Unless you were going to say something interesting.
No. Yeah, I was just. I was
going to say I did do Madness of the Land. They resolved the Goblin Fortress. They had an epic hour-long battle, which I actually came up with a mini-map for. It's the first mini-map I had to do for that game because there was 13 goblins, a winter wolf, and a goblin boss that they were all fighting.
It's a lot of goblins.
It was. They managed to kill them all, and actually, the thing is, like, there was always that part of me that was like, murder them all! But then again, they did all get pretty beat up, and it was some clutch healing by their warlock with a staff of healing that saved them all.
Nice.
Yes. Basically kept their barbarian on his feet and kept the rest of them on their feet, but they were taking a lot of damage. And then, like, the cleric dropped, but the barbarian, I think, got to 1 hit point before they finished off the boss then, after the healing. So it was pretty epic. Anyway, there's one final thing I want to do for today. Normally I do have an entire thing on Kickstarters. Oh my god, this will be kind of annoying to do for a second because I forgot to click on this here. Out and get the link up somewhere. I want to shout out a Kickstarter. Just one Kickstarter. Cadwood Games, who has been on the show before. Cadwood Games. He was on the show our early times. He's occasionally here we talk about him, maybe popping on and off. Anyway, he has his own world that the World of Mir. That he does Kickstarters and stuff for that he supports for 5th edition. So similar to, as I said, like Faerun and some of the other pre-existing D&D worlds, he came up with his own. There's a lot of like books on it and that are compatible with 5th edition D&D. Anyway, his which I'm going to put this link in the Twitch chat. He came up with his own monster manual, the Monsters of the Underworld, basically, that he's putting out with. It's another book for it, 100 new monsters for 5th edition. So they are about 3/4 to their goal. They're 15 out of 20,000, 15,000 out of 20,000, 17 days to go. I've gotten some of the World of Mir stuff. It's pretty cool. I've gotten all his books for it. I definitely would recommend checking it out if you're looking for a different D&D world, because he's got a lot of books on it. So you can, just like with Forgotten Realms, you can dive deep into that and get a lot of books on that. I think this is another one you can dive deep into pretty well. So I would definitely recommend checking it out and seeing about it. And $20 gets you the PDF, which is not bad. 35 physical copy. And these are Canadian dollars. So if you use us of us in the US, it's $15 for the PDF, 26 for a physical copy, 37 for both, and you can possibly get some other books along with it, with some expansions and stuff like that. And they've got a very interesting art style too, so kind of neat. Anyway,
very cool.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give him a good shout out. And hopefully some point he'll be able to get back on the show again. Alright, I think that's all the regular segments I can do. There is one final segment, but we're probably not going to really do much of it because it's the Ask the Table. If everybody has any questions at any time, you can message me on my Discord, you can do it on my Twitter, you can do it on the description of the YouTube video when it comes out, you can do it here if you're live. There's Discussing Tabletop at yahoo.com if you want to email me. Lots of ways to reach me overall. And if it's something that I can't quickly answer for you, I'll throw out here and things and tell you information on it. So there's a lot of choices. Thanks everybody who joined us today. It's been a fun episode. Thank you to Lee and Blaze. Lee, do you want to give a shout out to where people can find you and such?
Sure. Hey guys, I'm Just Lee Belmont, your noble vampire hunter. I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/JustLeeBelmont. Surprise, surprise. Every Monday, I learn a new speedrun game. Not sure what I'm going to do for this Monday. I think last week I did either Yoshi's Island or... no, I did Mega Man 2, The Power Fighters. And I managed to beat someone's record. I got a world record in that game. It was just one person, but I'll take it. But yeah, if you're into Castlevania games, into platformers, horror games, or fighting games, then I'm your man.
He just did a run of Parasite Eve 2, and it was a pretty good run. I liked it a lot. That's one of those games that has a lot of replayability, but it's also like it's hard to replay it in a row because they have so many different game modes. Like you unlock bounty mode, but there's also like scavenger mode, and then Nightmare, which I've beat Scavenger. I have not beat Nightmare. That's the one that I never beat.
Is Nightmare just like harder enemies?
You have half the starting health. Items are more scarce. Things are more expensive to purchase with BP and EXP. You do 1/4 the damage, while enemies do like 300% damage.
That sounds like everything's going to be a one-hit kill then.
It's awful!
Oh my god.
You have to maximize your ability just to avoid... You have to like learn all the patterns of avoiding things, you know. There's certain patterns that if you can learn them, you can make it possible. But that one... It's this weird trade-off of between, like, can I not fight things, but also fight things? And also,
I feel like
that's the one game mode that you don't bring in EXP or BP from previous modes.
Oh my god, come on, that's such garbage. I feel like Antibody 3 is going to be, like, mandatory for that.
Probably.
Like, assuming you can even, like, if they do, like, 300% damage, like, even then, you'd probably still take, like, 49 for, like, a basic hit.
It's just you gotta like you got to learn where every enemy is and all the encounters so that you know how to avoid the encounters. It's just a learn thing, and like proper weapons for the proper time too. But anyway, yes, that's that. So, and Blaze, thank you for joining me. You usually join me for Sundays at Tabletop and for 7 Days to Die. And you can find me probably tomorrow. I'll be streaming something during the day, and then Sundays at Tabletop, I should be doing it tomorrow night. And if you're looking for more Tabletop, there's Madness of the Land, which is usually on Tuesdays. We've been on a sort of mini hiatus while people are getting some order. I'm unsure if we're going to be back this week or not. I'm going to put that just out there. I'm hoping to be back soon, though, for Madness. And then Legacies of Kain will be Thursdays, which we're reaching towards the end of Season 2, just because I split my original plans of Season 2 into 2 different seasons because I had insane plans, and I'm not a madman anymore. Anyway, so, thank you for joining us. Thank you once again, guests, and I hope to see people here next week, and hopefully Joe will be back with us next week. Bye, everyone.